2023 Eurovision Song Contest. This is Pete from Eurovision. Today, I thought I'd do something really different. Rather than review songs or react to songs because the national final season is over, I thought I'd look at something completely different. And I want to ask the question, what did COVID-19 do to the Eurovision Song Contest? We all remember what happened in 2020 when COVID was first discovered and the impact that it had across the world. And one of the impacts it had on Eurovision was that there was a lot of debate about whether the contest would go ahead or not. And around about this time, 3 years ago, the decision was made that the Eurovision Song Contest would not go ahead. And the Ahoy Arena in the Netherlands was turned into a temporary hospital to treat the sick in their country. Now, you wouldn't think when the contest came back in 2021 that this would have any sort of knock-on effect, but it did. A new rule was brought in 2021 saying that backing vocals could be placed on the track. And this had never happened before because up until then, all vocals had to be live. Even vocal effects, there were fairly strict rules up until fairly recently about if you could put effects on or not, or whether you could use auto-tune or what have you. But the backing vocals always had to be live, even though increasingly they were coming off the stage. But in 2021, for the first time ever, backing vocals could be on the track. You didn't need to put backing singers on the stage. And the theory was that in the aftermath of COVID, if you put the backing vocals onto the track, you won't need more singers. And therefore, you will bring less people onto the stage, and therefore your delegation will be smaller, and therefore Eurovision will be safer from COVID because there'll be less people, and therefore the risk of infection will be less. And today, we're going to investigate whether that rule actually worked or not from a numbers-based point of view. So what I did was count up how many people performed on stage in the 2018 and 2019 Eurovision Song Contests in the pre-COVID era, and counted how many performers were on stage in the 2021 and 2022 Song Contests in the post-COVID era. And we got this data from the excellent sixonstage.com, which is an excellent resource for anyone who wants to know who's ever appeared on a Eurovision stage. And what we found was that there were 441 people who graced the stage in the pre-COVID era from 84 different delegations. And yet in the post-COVID era, there were only 333 performers appearing from 79 different delegations. And that works out at an average of 5.25 performers per country in the pre-COVID era and 4.22 performers per delegation in the post-COVID era. So that means that compared to before COVID, we actually lost 108 performers on stage, and we lost one person roughly per delegation over the 2 years after COVID. But means are a bit of a clumsy way to try and express it. What is 0.22 of a person? So let's try and express it in a different way. So pre-COVID, there was a median of 6 performers on stage. So that's well over 50% of acts used all 6 performers. But by the time we got post-COVID, the median was 5 performers per delegation. And this graph shows you what happened to the delegation sizes on stage pre and post-COVID. So before COVID, there were so many acts using all 6 artists on stage. Over 60% of delegations made sure that all 6 artists appeared on the stage. And very few solo singers appeared with no backing singers. There were very few just one person on stage delegations. In the post-COVID era, you can see that there's a massive reduction to around 30% of delegations who made use of all 6 artists on stage. But there's quite a big jump in the number of artists just sending one singer on stage with no backing singers and no dancers. But what we don't know from this data set is how many of those solo artists in the post-COVID era had backing vocals placed on the track. In other words, how many of them were solo because there were already voices on the track and they didn't need to put them on stage. But it looked as though the plan has worked. There were 100 fewer people coming to Eurovision over the last 2 years compared to the pre-COVID era. And there's one less singer or performer on stage for every delegation that appears at the Eurovision Song Contest. The question is, did it prevent COVID? Now, we can never really answer that. We don't know how many of the production crew, how many of the technical staff, how many of the arena staff, how many of those people came down with COVID. All we know is that in the 2021 contest, Daddy Freya's band, one of his band members from Iceland, had to drop out because they got COVID. And as a result, Daddy Freya did not appear live at the Eurovision Song Contest and their rehearsal footage had to be used. And we all remember them watching the voting from a hotel lobby. So, therefore, have the motives of the European Broadcasting Union changed? They brought in this rule with a view to making the 2021 contest a safer contest where less COVID would be there because less people would be there. But now it seems as though 50 people per contest don't turn up, and therefore you don't have to pay them to dance, to sing, or to perform because you've already put them on the backing track. And so that's a big money saving incentive both to delegations and to the European Broadcasting Union and to the host as well. The other consideration is that the use of backing tracks means that artists and producers get to be more creative in what they can do. And again, Daddy Freya is a good example of someone in his song who used a choir of backing vocalists. In fact, they were fans who lent their voice to the backing choir. So you can create a much stronger vocal beyond the 6 people that you can have on stage. Now, there are some people who think that Eurovision should be as live as it can be, and I'm one of those people. And actually having those backing singers sing live is good for the contest, and actually having them on stage rather than hiding them around the back is an even better thing to do. But there are other people who think that you can use production techniques to make those vocals stronger if you put them onto the backing track. And with the advent of autotune coming to the Eurovision Song Contest and electronic effects coming more and more into the Eurovision Song Contest, is it possible that actually we need these to modernise the contest rather than using backing singers on stage? What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What do you think of the data? Like, share, comment, and subscribe to Euroversity, direct from Liverpool, the home of the 2023 Eurovision Song Contest. This is Pete, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.